What is up, everybody? This is Scott Melker, the host of the Wolf of All Streets podcast, where 2 times every single week we talk to your favorite personalities in Bitcoin, crypto, finance, art, sports, technology, politics, basically anyone we find with a good story to tell. The show is powered by Blockworks Group, a media company with over 20 podcasts in their network. You can check them out at blockworksgroup.io. If you like the podcast and follow me on Twitter, you absolutely need to check out my website and join my newsletter, where I share all my trades, charts, analysis, market thoughts, and lessons on improving your trading and investing. And you can check that out at thewolfofallstreets.io. So today's guest began his career in the investment banking industry, but decided to become an entrepreneur after developing a passion for emerging technologies. He went on to co-found NOIA to challenge and improve the way the internet works. Jonas Simanavicius, is that correct? Did I get it?
Yeah, that's as close as people get.
I tried my best. Is now working to improve the internet's capabilities for consumers at a mass scale. Jonas, man, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So what is the exact pronunciation? Because I tried, I've listened.
Yeah, it's Jonas Simanavicius.
See, I thought it might be Jonas, but I heard you pronounce it as Jonas before, so...
Yeah, it's just easier for people normally.
So you're a man of many names, I guess. So let's start from the beginning. As I mentioned, I know that you were in investment banking and kind of led to tech. What was your, your path like? When did you start getting into this?
Sure. So I guess everything started when I started doing a software engineering degree at University of Edinburgh. And then did computer science and then switched to computer science with management. We used to did internships at investment banking areas. And then I did several internships and then stayed with one of the investment banks for several years working as a application developer in a trading team. And then, as you said, later on, went to entrepreneurship and had another startup in London. Before starting NOIA a couple of years ago. And so ever since we started NOIA, I've been there as a CTO and a co-founder, leading the technology team and the innovation on the tech side for the last 2 years.
So you weren't actually an investment banker, you were working on the tech side of investment banking. So you were always in the software side.
Yeah, so I had a software engineering background, but I was always interested in finance. I used to also, trade, etc. And I had a lot of background in finance as a hobby on the side. That's why I went into investment banking, even though as a role in technology and software engineering. But for those roles, you had to understand finance products because we used to build platforms to trade exotic derivatives, equity derivatives, asset-backed securities, things like that. So I also have a CFA level 1 exam passed as well, cool. Just to get more background on the finance side. So I had to know enough about finance to do my roles on the engineering side.
So do you still trade?
No, not professionally, no. So, let's just say I manage my own investment portfolio. That's all.
Yeah, well, I think that's what most people arrive at. So let's talk about what you're doing now, obviously, at NOIA. So maybe we should start with what are the problems with the internet now? Because I think your average person just uses the internet. They don't think about it. You type in a web address, it happens. So what are the issues that we have now and what are you looking to solve?
Sure. So I guess, what was showed recently with the COVID pandemic and everything, that was one of the first times where regular people saw that internet sometimes stopped working. Because we used to also hear about is that everything's fine, internet works. But if you actually dig deeper, companies are paying huge sums of money to have private internet lines bought and connected for them, so they don't have to use just the public internet you and I are using every day. And for software applications, CDNs, etc., content providers, they spend a lot of money and effort so that everything works for you and I. But one of the core problems of internet is that the protocols are actually quite old. So the main protocols doing the routing is called BGP, and which still controls most of the internet routing across the world, is pretty old. I believe it started since 1994 or something like that, and hasn't changed largely. So it's really hard to change the internet core protocol, because when everyone needs to adopt it. So there was some evolution and different layers and products created to solve those problems, but no one really had a solution to have a new layer of internet which is automatically optimized, secure, and really made for the users, as opposed to letting the currently run infrastructure by internet service providers, data centers, etc., control the routing and capacities and everything. And they do it not in a most optimized, most efficient way for the user. They do it for, sometimes business reasons, for cost optimization reasons, etc. They often don't do it in the most optimal way.
So does that mean that the internet could be much faster? Does it mean that the internet is at risk of completely collapsing? I mean, it seems very strange that the thing we use the most often is basically built in 1994. With the velocity of technology and how much new technology we have, that seems somewhat absurd.
Yes, so the internet could be both much faster and much more reliable. So the problems companies, applications, and users face every day is these networks are extremely diverse, and then the internet is extremely distributed. That means everyone's controlling their own bit, and it just somehow somewhat works. So it's often referred to as a best effort basis, and that's what internet is, unless we're talking about private infrastructure, which is worth billions. So what NOIA is trying to do is to take that public internet and then treat it really as a layer of cables and not a working product. So we're using internet as our transport layer, and then we will use hundreds of thousands of POPs on this current internet. And then we put the optimization and security layer on top, so everyone can use an optimized and secure internet, but we use the current internet as a one massive, dump of cables, which we can use more efficiently than it can be used on its own.
That's interesting. So, and I've heard, I've talked to a lot of people who talk about the problems with the internet and all the different potential solutions, I guess. You're not trying to reinvent it. You're just trying to basically improve it with a second layer. I mean, is that an accurate assumption? And why not just try to reinvent it completely if it's 1994 technology?
In a way, that's accurate, and we think that's the best way, because you cannot just replace internet while still keeping it online and without zero active and a downtime. And if you think about internet, it's extremely large distributed thing, and there's a lot of technologies and companies involved. So if you were to agree on a completely new protocol in a day, that just would be extremely unlikely and a hard endeavor. That's why we have seen evolution on internet, such as IPv6 is still gaining adoption. And there's other technologies trying to basically glue the holes and make it work as best as it can. But we are trying to do one step further and not just glue a patch, but really build a complete new layer which can be used by everyone and optimize it, make it secure, but utilize everything and we've got working well, right? So BGP itself, even built, the roots coming from 94, it's a working technology which finds any address on the internet. So if you have an IP address, BGP will find a way how to get to you, but not necessarily in the most efficient way. It just does not account latency information into those calculations, but it will find you. So it's working pretty well as a transport layer. And if we can put, hundreds of thousands of nodes on various different places on this internet already working, and then optimize that, and during that, we both encrypt it, secure, and send it via a better path, is just a better layer. So you would be able to use NOIA as you turn on NOIA on your internet, and then you're using better internet, but you still need to have internet.
Right. So it's basically too big to fix. No matter, so the internet, the base of it is a layer that we're basically stuck with indefinitely, it sounds like.
I think it will change. It will not change overnight drastically because it's just too hard. But it will definitely evolve. As I said, technologies like segment routing, which we adopted very early on, IPv6. This is a super powerful combination because you can put so much more information into each data packet. And then, the routers understand what to do with those data packets. It gives so much more abilities for technologies like ours and others to make more and better solutions, even on the internet we have currently. So it will evolve, it will get better, but it needs big, drastic, innovative solutions like ours to have significant change.
So who are your customers? Like, what's your customer look like? Is it the internet as a whole, or private companies, individuals? What does that look like?
So our initial goal and target market is companies and also software developers, users, but basically internet connectivity between machines, machine-to-machine communication. So the target market is IoT, connecting thousands of devices to cloud. Then software deployments, connecting different servers in different cloud regions or private infrastructure. So imagine any application like, Uber. They deploy thousands of servers across, many data centers. Any large application uses automated deployments and uses, hundreds of servers connecting databases with their back-end applications, front-end applications. So all of those deployments, they use machine-to-machine connections, and we need to be secured and we need to be optimized. So we're launching with a product for software developers, DevOps, engineers, CTOs, to use in their companies or personally to connect any amount of servers and devices in a secure and optimized way. And this way we will bring first traffic onto this network and start this business. But eventually our goal is to let every person which has internet participate. That means share their internet connectivity if if it can be used to make someone else's connection better, as well as use NOIA, this new additional layer or better layer of internet, and then have their connections also secured and optimized for everyday use as well. So that's the eventual goal. But we took a very gradual approach to actually do what's possible and gain traction, bring traffic to the network, get operational experience, and then grow.
Yeah, it seems like scale would be such a major issue. That it'd be somewhat easy to start these things small, but then when you start talking about everyone everywhere, that it would become a major issue. How do you consider scale when you're planning now, and slowly expanding?
So there's a couple elements to scale. Software engineering wise, we're confident you can make builds to scale. I think it's really about growing the network. So, we already have 2,000 nodes run by our community members, supported by our token. So we already support, with the current market capitalization and the token, we support more than 2,000 nodes daily to give their resources to us, right? So we're building a incentivized based system to grow the network. And while you're growing the network, the token economy makes it also brings incentives for more people to join the network. And this way we can grow the network to tens of thousands of nodes. And by that time, it starts to provide huge utility. You will start to have, and we already have, evidence of how many nodes and where do you need to have a lot of optimization opportunities. So, once you have a mechanism, a digital asset-based mechanism to incentivize growth of, hundreds of thousands of nodes to enable you this amazing utility, and then you just need to bring enough traffic into this network to make the whole thing sustainable. and self-run by the digital asset. So the scaling problem is really based on trust and growing the network. And if you succeed there, you can solve the software engineering challenges. But the core logic premise, which just held to be true, is the more available segments you have to construct paths from, the more optimization opportunities you can provide. So it's a true network effect.
So you say it's based on trust, but really the idea is that it's structured so that it's trustless. Correct. I mean, you incentivize your nodes, you incentivize everyone in the network not to behave badly, and therefore they don't really require trust.
Yeah, I think we'll make a quote from what you said. It sounds counterintuitive, but is really true. Is you gain trust to be trust nodes, and the incentivization mechanism is designed to have as stable and as good as possible nodes, both in terms of trust on the network. That means they have incentive to stay and be reputable, and both in terms of being a good node network-wise. So if you have, a node, a bare metal node in a data center, which has huge, co-location opportunities and, different internet connections to it, it can serve, way more optimization opportunities than a node which does not have very good internet connectivity. So that naturally draws more traffic into better connectivity. So, those data centers or nodes which will have poor internet connectivity, they will earn less. And those which will attract most traffic will be the best performing. So they will have incentives to stay on the network and then, relay this traffic. And so this way they bring trust. But by doing that, we can make the system trustless from the centralization perspective. We can have everyone join and the system based on the real demand we need in the network, certain areas. So at the end of the day, you kind of then have a decentralized bandwidth exchange where everyone can participate with what they have and everyone can, buy certain capacity from it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I love the structure in general that has been developed because it really just incentivizes people to behave well. On the flip side of that, what's the punishment for behaving poorly? What's the punishment for being a bad actor, for being a poor node?
Yeah, so it's pretty standard. The punishment is it will be based on a monetary incentive as well. So if you want to earn your reward, you need to stay at a certain level of reputation, or you get your rewards periodically, and that doesn't give you incentive to cheat, or you can lose some amount what you accumulated already if you cheat. So there's really no way for you to just come and cheat because it costs you money to try to hurt the system, but you will only earn rewards after some delay if you don't cheat. So it's really, your own self disincentive. Now, from the client perspective, you are already paying for the traffic, if it makes your data flows more optimized. So you're not going to put your own node and then pay yourself to then get your own money, right, and then still pay a fee to the system. So there's really a lot of logical basis to do that, to harm the system this way. In a fully decentralized model, of course, there will be a consensus mechanism to ensure the cheating basically of two things, which is bandwidth being sent and performance. There's only two things you need a consensus on, and with certain level of control or trusted partners, you can achieve that gradually. So there will be mechanisms to basically prevent bad actors to misbehave as in any system, and it will be, I guess, still some sort of a fight and it will work in most cases mechanism where the system finds bad actors itself and then just does not send traffic. The nodes get penalized, they stop participating, so we don't have incentive, and it costs money to run the node. So you can't do that.
And this is all based on the NOIA token. right? I mean, when you talk about incentives and talk about people getting paid, they're getting paid in your token, correct?
Yes. So the tokenomics and the model will be based, on the token, but not to say that, not to say that that any user will need to use the token to use the system, right? So we will try to have a frictionless experience for everyday users, but the system and for the node operators that will be run by the token as a trust-based system.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It's so cool. So did you always intend when you started it from the very beginning to basically leverage, a cryptocurrency and to do it, blockchain based as opposed to doing it another way? Because I mean, there's other people trying to obviously solve the problems of the internet that have nothing to do with blockchain or the crypto space, correct?
Yeah, so we always had the idea. And then once we started the company, actually, we started as a distributed CDN. We just saw distributed things as fundamentally better. But of course, the world has not solved all the problems of decentralization and distribution. And in some scenarios and in some technologies, centralized technologies still take the lead, even though it's obvious that, fundamentally distributed things will be better. So it's one of those things. It's like, when Tesla started electric cars, people said, look, there's all the petrol stations and everything. You can't just you can't just change that. But at the same time, by now, everyone already knows that the future is electric, right? Like there's very few people who would argue that fundamentally the future is not. People can say that it will take time, it will take, market forces, whatever. But it's true, it's the next level of the evolution. So similarly, we always knew distributed things are better, and we try to find ways where we can leverage, blockchain and the ability to make systems incentivized by themselves or fully decentralized. So once we started with CDN, we found more problems in the data routing, and then moved towards the routing space. And then we created this concept of programmable internet. We really saw that it's possible to achieve that if we combine blockchain technologies, the new segment routing, IPv6 and other routing technology, network technologies now available to us, and also open source protocols like WireGuard, which we use for encryption layer. It's the combination and the timing of technologies. Just clicked that it's possible to do. And now we're confident we know a way. It just, it will take time and effort to grow the nodes, obtain, enough information about the optimization opportunities, deploy the software, keep the nodes running, keep the trust, and all those things.
How much of an issue is security when you're building something like this? I mean, I'm certainly not a tech guy, and hacking beyond its existence is not. I don't understand how it's done or what the fundamentals of it are. But how hackable is a system like this? How much does it put people's data at risk and the network itself?
So there's a couple sides of security in our project because it's just so wide. So from a platform perspective and people using it, the user encrypts data end to end. That means the user owns both endpoints, both servers or device and the server. And, not like in a traditional VPN system where you connect a server and then go somewhere else. In this system, your endpoints exchange the keys and encrypt data end to end. So we as a network never actually get to see your data. Even NOIA itself will not be able to see what you're sending between those endpoints. So you encrypt them end to end, and that's what the protocol WireGuard allows us to do. But because the data is encrypted, we can then forward it through all of those nodes without security issues because data is encrypted and the nodes don't get to see it. So there's no so-called VPN exit node problem where you need to trust the exit node, which still needs to decipher your information and then pass it on to the internet. So from that point of view, it's the opposite. It's an easy way to encrypt your data. It's an easy way to create a secure tunnel. And then optimization happens when data, travels through the nodes. And what the nodes see is just like what your internet provider would see on a cable. It's an encrypted data packet.
Right.
So, and because we use open source encryption protocol, we largely benefit, with wisdom of a crowd, because you really don't want to invent your own encryption protocol.
That makes sense.
In terms of security from the system and hacking the whole, bringing the system down. So of course, for that, we will leverage the consensus protocols, which are proven to be trustworthy, and the smart contract systems, which are proven to be trustworthy. So for that, we have partners working on the blockchain side. And, when we still use smart contracts of Ethereum, obviously you need to have smart contract audits, etc. But you trust Ethereum smart contract layer. And if we transition to a fully own blockchain or ledger with our own consensus mechanism, that's where you'll need to make sure the consensus works as well.
Is that in the plans that you would basically create your own blockchain, separate from Ethereum, have your own oracles, verify all of your own information, and basically internalize everything?
So we have possible architecture plans, and we have plans how things could be possible to be to do it now. But we know it will evolve, and we already have our own blockchain team working on it. So we're pretty sure we'll use Ethereum to begin with, because it's enough to start the system and allow thousands of nodes to join the network. It's enough to authenticate nodes to the network and pay them rewards to bring the network. But once the system runs our own DARP protocol, we have a distributed autonomous routing protocol. Once we move towards this decentralization and open access, there might be a pivotal point where it's inevitable to have your own consensus and validators as well. Right. So at that point, we will be either moving to another blockchain or launching our own ledger. But we don't want to, speculate or commit on a particular implementation, because we know it will evolve once we get the first answers from launching the network.
RoundTheX.com is one of my favorite companies in the entire crypto space. What they do is take all your small purchases and round them up to the nearest dollar and invest that spare change into any of over 30 crypto assets of your choice. They integrate with your favorite exchanges so that you can view various exchange balances all in one dashboard and round up into different assets all at the same time. And they do all this without ever holding any of your Bitcoin. This is by far the best way to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. Go to roundthex.com and use the promo code WOLF for $4 in free Bitcoin after making your first roundup or purchase. That's ROUNDLYX.com and code WOLF for $4 in free Bitcoin. Are you sick of paying ridiculous fees to trade crypto? It's time you try Voyager. It's hands down my favorite place to buy and trade crypto, and it's 100% commission free. Voyager gives you easy access to more than 30 top crypto assets, and you can instantly transfer cash from your bank account so you never miss a trading opportunity. Even better, you can now automatically earn interest on your crypto holdings. Currently, they're offering 5% interest on Bitcoin and 6% on USDC. Yes, you heard that correctly, 6%. And there are no limits or lockups, which means your funds always stay liquid. Find out why so many people are making the switch to Voyager. Visit investvoyager.com or search for Voyager on the iTunes or Google Play Store and get $25 in free Bitcoin when you use the promo code SCOTT25. That's investvoyager.com, promo code SCOTT25 for $25 in free Bitcoin, and start trading today. It's interesting because I've actually heard people sort of make the comparison of early internet, like 1990s internet, to Ethereum, relative to other blockchains that are faster. Ethereum's sort of this world computer, and it's amazing, but it's an old technology now in this space. It's relatively slow. It doesn't confirm particularly a lot of transactions in a short period of time. So, and now I guess this could be another topic. We see this huge DeFi boom, right? Which then increases Ethereum gas fees tremendously. Anyone who's been on Uniswap or has tried to send Ethereum around has noticed that things are a bit slower and a bit more expensive. So does any of that concern you when you're building on Ethereum? And then I guess, how does Ethereum 2.0 play into your plans?
Yeah, so one thing, I was also wanted to mention the Ethereum 2.0 and all the other initiatives. It's evolving as well. So we believe they also working on these issues. And Ethereum, currently it's still most trusted smart contract platform for sure. So and when you're designing the system, if trust is a huge element, and then the ease of use is great, then you choose a balance how you design your system. So it's possible to design a system or the first stages of it where you don't need microtransactions or a lot of them. So Ethereum becomes not a problem by an architectural decision, especially if you're planning later stages where you can always move to another blockchain if you hit those barriers. But for us, it didn't make sense to start with an untrusted, system, which might have fantastic scaling opportunities, but it's still not yet proven before we need those scaling opportunities. But what we need to start with is the trust already. So for us, it just makes sense. And we took inspiration from other blockchain products and projects, for example, for our tokenomics model as well. But unlike other blockchains, when people created new blockchains, for them, they had to commit on an implementation and the consensus mechanism and everything, and then implement it and then prove it's trustworthy and then get the use cases on it. We have a pleasure of, building it lean and really build up the company, build up the product, which will bring true network, true traffic, and usage to this network. And then do that in stages when we are ready and actually have a traffic. So for us, it makes more sense to develop and launch a working stages of a network as opposed to commit to a design and then face problems later.
That makes sense. So what do you make of this huge DeFi boom now? That's all obviously primarily on Ethereum. Totally switching gears here, but yeah.
Sure. I think it's, in a way, and I really don't want people to understand it in a bad way. In a way, I compare it to the first, bunch of the ICO projects, which raised capital for fantastic ideas and really pushed the envelope of innovation really far. But it just so it happened, and then a lot of these ideas later on struggled either to get traction or get executed. And what we see now in the market is some of those projects really actually gain traction, build their technologies, found real use cases, and they are partly also driving this comeback in the markets. At the same time, DeFi is something new, which the ICO and blockchain was before that. So there is now so much new ideas in decentralized finance, which are all fascinating and truly innovative and fueling this boom. I believe some of them will turn out to be the new norm projects like some of the first from the first wave. Now we have some fantastic projects in the crypto market, and it will serve a purpose. So this boom of funding new innovative ideas is absolutely required just for the innovation, because again, so much capital flows into people who try to build stuff. So I really look at it as fundamentally not a bad thing. If anything, I encourage new innovation ideas. People look at them, make comments, critique the ideas to try and make, especially if those ideas are trying to make the world more futuristic, more deploying best technologies to the good of the public.
Are there specific projects or at least general ideas that really excite you in that arena?
Not specific projects. I don't want to name the project, but I think fundamentally there's a huge challenge for the existing, finance sectors, both on the retail, trading, investment, etc., where this new model of decentralized finance can challenge them fundamentally, and it will be a time frame before the quality of the systems, the trust, the volumes, all those details which will keep the existing markets running, the way they do now. It will take time for all those things to get perfected. But if you think about it, like really logically, what will happen? There are certain areas where it does not make sense to have a company in between, or it just does not make sense to have software which can fail, or it just does not make sense to have, other points of failure where, projects which tackle those areas, I believe some of them, which will make the execution perfect, will turn out to be the new takers of that market.
Yeah, that's a good approach. I think that makes sense. So that actually, it kind of reminds me that we didn't even discuss how you got into crypto in the first place. So I know that you were obviously in banking and you were doing software, but like, what's your Bitcoin journey? When did you discover it?
Yeah.
How early were you?
Yeah, so my Bitcoin journey was Ethereum, and back in the time when I was at JP Morgan Chase. We used to have a group of friends which were talking about technologies all the time, and what's new, what's latest. We were young and hungry, and Ethereum. I saw Ethereum when it did its ICO, I believe, and we looked at it as this new supercomputer made from millions of computers,
right? The world computer,
the world computer which executes code, and at the time even cloud wasn't as everyday thing as it is now. So cloud was cool already at the time, and Ethereum just looked something which is too big to even understand at the time, but it's big. So I started in Ethereum, and I actually started mining Ethereum on Amazon's computer.
I wanted to launch.
And a web server. I wanted to launch a miner, and at that time, it would have mined like a couple of hundred ethers a minute or something like that. It was the first miners, and I had some errors, some bugs. Even the miner software wasn't that good, and I gave up. So I didn't solve that. I didn't launch it.
If I had mining millions of dollars an hour of Ethereum, basically.
But yeah, and that's but. I always, kept a look and sort of on the industry. And then during my entrepreneurial time after investment banking, I started traded crypto as a hobby on the side. But really, like, just from trying to understand how to use wallets, trading, the new concept of doing things, because I knew it's going to grow, and I just need to be familiar with it.
So obviously, we've anyone who's been here for a few years has ridden the roller coaster of the crypto space, all-time highs and all the way down to huge lows, even as recently, obviously, as March. Did you ever lose your faith in that? I mean, you just said, you wanted to be here, you believed in it. Did you ever kind of lose faith and say, maybe this is garbage and it's going to zero and I need to move on with my life?
Yeah, so during the boom, I was well involved in both the altcoin market and the main crypto markets, and I sort of saw the projects, and I learned the lesson that when the market conditions are favorable, everything goes. But at the end of the day, real ideas, real fundamental ideas, they do have a basis for value. And when it converges to, so it will always have at least the fundamental value, and then anything on top. So so what I think is really important is to try and find find real logical use cases and things how things can work. So I never lost faith in that. I know by reading white papers and tokenomics models that these models can work. It's proven by the modeling statistics, simulations.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just the way of adoption and having more and more of these projects. And then, I think there's always going to be an element of speculation, but that gives this new way of, funding projects and innovation and technology. So I really never lost faith in the concept itself. I knew people will find how to use it to bring massive ideas, to scale adoption and everything. So,
Right.
even back when Bitcoin was, $2,000, Ether was,
30
something as
bucks. Yeah.
well.
60. Yeah.
Yeah. I never lost faith that Bitcoin is not going away. Ethereum and blockchain as a concept is not going away. And then the markets will do their thing, but as industries, they're not going away. And then if you're not going away, what are we doing? Are we staying? Unlikely. It's very unlikely an industry just,
Stays
this young
still.
just stays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there really is, the only way is more opportunities, more ideas, more innovation, more everything, and more means growth of the common industry. So I'm still super confident that we're in a super early stages of crypto in general.
You talked about just now that there's always going to be speculators. So like you have kind of the builders and then you have the people who are just trying to like make their money around it, obviously. And I mean, I think that's, that any small company has its investors or its venture capital. And at the end of the day, they just are speculators, right? They just care about making money, putting money into something and making it. So starting a company in this space, what was it like, acquiring financing and dealing with those speculators and figuring out how you could actually make it happen, but still do it, in the manner that you wanted to?
A roller coaster. So it was a true roller coaster, but I think, what we understood is that the key is resiliency, just resiliency. And then if you just don't give up, and if you truly believe that what you're doing is fundamentally, logically right, then everything else is a matter of finding ways to do it and then finding the energy to do it. So if you have the energy, you'll find the ways. If you find the ways, you'll do it if it's possible to be done. So for us, we just decided to not give up, and that was all. And there was better times and there was worse times where you just need to get inventive, get creative, and be resilient. So it was a true roller coaster, but we have an amazing community of supporters, which are actually reading about the internet, following our tech updates, which are extremely detailed. They actually understand what they do. So we're really thankful for that, and they helped us to live through the hard times.
Did you have to raise any venture capital, or were you basically able to do most of it through the community and through the growth of the token and such?
No, so we raised private money from venture capital and angel investors in the industry. We did like at the beginning, we did a small public sale in South Korean market, but it was mainly token distribution from the foundational node program for our nodes, and through private investors and funds, and a small public sale. So yeah, we raised capital, and then we used it to build the technology. We successfully raised enough capital to continue operations, to go to market with our platform, the product, get those partnerships with the enterprises we want to deal with, and then basically make this whole circle close and work, right? Because there's a lot of elements to it. It's not only blockchain or only business. If you really want to make a new layer of internet, you need to solve a chicken egg problem of demand and supply. So that's why if you want to launch the network, you need people who will use it. For that, you need to launch the product, and that's hard as a business on its own. So we had to learn a lot. We had to do a lot of homework, and it took us time. But we believe now we will have elements where we just need to grow, execute, and then launch the ecosystem.
So if it's a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Jonas sitting in a room, I have an idea, and 10 being everyone in the world is using NOIA network and doesn't even know about it, where are you now?
Yeah. Good question. So it's and I guess there's no good answer, right? Any number will be sort of just an interpretation, but let me tell you this,
You're the best person to give that interpretation.
Yeah. So, when there's, exponential growth graphs and like everything in life
right. It's not linear. So yeah.
Yeah. So you do a lot of homework, and every small bit you do in life compounds. And then, your target audience knows compound interest too well.
I hope they do by now. Oh my gosh.
So that works in life as well, or building a company or everything. So we're at the point where, we entering a rocket. We believe we're at the point where everything we do now will compound much faster. We're growing the team. The technology is near the launch. Everything is just keeps aligning, and we believe it's the result of the 2 years of compounding work we've done with our partners, technology, community, everything. There's really no way to cheat around it. You need to compound enough knowledge, and actions to do that. So we believe we are at an inflection point where things will start to accelerate much faster.
Like every project I talk to right now, like everybody, and I think it's actually true, but I think everybody feels like right now, 2020, like this is the inflection point of all these companies that have been working for 2 or 3 years and went through the crypto winter and did everything. It seems like it's just this explosion coming. Right? I mean, do you feel that in the industry as a whole?
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like everyone I talk to is like, you see, finally we're seeing main nets. Finally, we're seeing like the actual products that people have been talking about for 2 or 3 years. It just really feels like everything's about to go parabolic, sort of, as you said.
And it makes sense, right? And that's exactly what I talked about. The first, bunch of ICO products where, some really did find great use cases and users and everything. And it takes about 2 to 3 years. If you really think about it, it takes 3 years to build a startup, no matter what you do, with certain exceptions, but really it takes time to build something great. And it is right about, this time. And then what happens is when more capital flows into the markets, because we see opportunities now, which are more real because some of the projects are showing real traction. And that just ignites the loop, right? Because new money coming into the market funds even more of those opportunities, or the current ones makes them execute faster. Yeah. And that just fuels the growth. So I guess that's just the way, the cycles of innovation work, even from the .com boom, there was all sorts of craziness, but during that time, there was the birth of all the tech giants. So I'm really happy about the influx of capital coming into the development of new technologies, into the computer science, into distributed technologies. So I take it as a super positive effect in general. If you think 20 years from now, a lot of the answers would be different. If you think 2 months from now, anything can happen, right? Any project can go up and down or whatever. But if you think 10, 15 years in the future, what makes sense, what doesn't? So crypto in general really, fits the narrative of where the world's going and what problems it's trying to solve.
So how much does like the global economic situation right now, disregarding the stock market because it's completely in its own world, but the actual global economic situation, money printing and, depressionary scenarios, GDP shrinking. How much does all of that, do you think, affect or potentially slow all of the pace of innovation? Like, I know we're at this inflection point, but could that actually somewhat stop or stifle it, at least temporarily?
So I actually believe the world's the finance world is even more distributed and decentralized. Maybe decentralized is a discussable term, depends what do you mean, but it's more distributed as even as internet, so finance is the most distributed thing. From what we learned in 2008 and stuff, like no one knew what's going on truly. There was no person on earth who understand the whole complexity of things. So there was some bad intentions, good intentions, but really what happened is it just happened. It's this spider web of things happened. So the world economics is just such a complex thing that it's, no one can really with a certainty say, oh, this will happen this way or this will happen this way. But if we talk again, like narratives, if something like Bitcoin currently is be only truly decentralized concept in the world, right? There's nothing else as decentralized as Bitcoin. At least I don't know, and feel free to argue.
I would not argue that. Yeah, I agree.
So can it serve as money? Yes and no. In some situations can, in some no. Can it just become a reserve currency? There's a gazillion issues with that. So I believe anyone saying a particular scenario is also just giving an opinion. No one knows, because it will happen sort of with noise of the world, with geopolitical events happening. COVID proved us that anything can happen any day. God forbid asteroid can hit us tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
well, apparently that's a possibility now because it's 2020. So
yeah, but fundamentally, if you compare things, if you compare a scarce asset like Bitcoin, which does not inflate, if it will, if people will need its utility, more people will want to have some to use for something. That means some people will buy a lot of it as an investment. Some people will buy, $3 to make a transaction, which, can only be made in a digital way. Some people just like the utility of, having money in a USB stick, or having a backup passport, password as your own store of value. So there's many utilities to it. And with that, comes logical conclusions. Again, if you do the modeling, if more people use it, there's some velocity measures, which makes it, makes the price do one thing or another. So I think, in general, no one's sure how the economy or monetary, things will change into crypto. But fundamentally, digital assets will bring more utility, better utility. And if they will be used, they will have certain share of money. So I wouldn't speculate of what will happen, but I'm for sure guaranteed, the growth of digital asset concept in general.
This train cannot be stopped, basically.
Yeah, I would say
might
so.
take a detour here and there, but it's a pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point. So going back to the internet, I guess just like sort of a bigger question is, if everything you do succeeds, if all these improvements are made, what is, for an average person like me, what's my experience on the internet 10 years from now? What's the perfect picture there?
Yeah, 10 years is huge. 10 years is so much from now.
5 years from now.
Yeah, no, but we can stay at 10. And I'm just like, magnifying the point. 10 years is so huge. So, the favorite article I read a couple of days ago was researchers sent some data through, a single link with an incredible speed. I don't want to quote the numbers, don't want to be wrong, but it would be equivalent of like sending almost all internet traffic in,
blink.
a blink or a short period of time, basically, many, many times over these times of speeds. So that will happen. Technologies like 5G, will bring you, whatever, 10x, then 100x. New technologies will bring better speeds. It will just keep increasing. Then that will allow new opportunities from the business side, to create new products. So edge is a new trend. More and more computation goes into edge. Edge connects to 5G well and has incredible speeds. So more and more computation can be done on in the cities, in the small devices, instead of going to the data centers for compute. So there's these fundamental shifts which will allow devices to communicate much better with almost zero latency, way more computation to be done, and that will create things like not only things like 16K video streams or something. That would be the obvious thing which will happen. The quality of things will improve, but it will enable breakthrough ideas, breakthrough concepts, which will emerge. And we super happy to see that. So there's technologies where with 100 gigabits a second throughput become possible.
So like virtual reality, I mean, we're going to, artificial intelligence and virtual reality and things like this, everything's going to become automated. We'll be able to create other worlds, of virtual reality and things like that, I'd imagine.
So virtual reality is a great example, so volumetric video, for example, you can scan, 80 gigabytes of data a second or a frame with a 3D scanner in the room, right? So that doesn't only scan the video, but also the volumetric information of things. And that is like thousands of gigabytes of data per, minutes, you want to store. So if you want to have a video of that, that's thousands, terabytes of data being transferred. Now, if you want to have it real time, well, good luck with that. Then you need, hundreds of gigabits a second of throughput between your device and your router. But if the computation doesn't happen on your router, you need same throughput to the server, which does the computation. For that, you need both the computation and incredible throughput and zero latency. Not zero latency,
speed,
but low latency.
I mean, at a very basic level, it's a matter of speed and processing power. I mean, power to some degree. I mean, quantum computers and instantaneous data transfers and all these things, right? I mean, so we're just talking about basically everything happens in real time.
Yeah, so quantum is a different beast. So it's funny you mentioned that because I read some stuff in the last couple of days. So standard computers have a limit of what they can do in certain kind of problems. So once quantum computers get to certain availability and certain speed, they will start to crack problems which are now impossible for the current computers. Then you have two types of computing for two types of problems. One which we can't solve now, and we even treat it as a feature of what we can't do, such as cryptography is based on things you can't compute out of. So quantum will be not a linear change, and better, faster, more, even things like virtual reality, I still call them incremental technologies because they're still based on things like, monitors, things we make incrementally better with technology. Right. Quantum is a different beast. And what we joke about is once we finish reinventing this new internet, we'll do a quantum internet where information, is being sent immediately, instantaneously.
Before you even know that you want it, it's arrived.
Yeah. So, if bits can change information across the universe, doesn't matter the distance with zero latency, that's the internet you want, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's above my pay grade, but certainly. So, I mean, it sounds like the future becomes, where it's kind of like the Matrix, but you're plugged in, and everything you want to do or everything you need kind of happens in real time,
or you never know, or you plug out and you understand.
Yeah. Which pill choose, blue or red. So you also own another company, right? I guess we've got your cloud, NOIA in the cloud, and then you have the other cloud. You own a vaping company, right?
Yeah, that was my previous startup. So we started that several years ago. As I said, when I quit banking, I went and traveled around the world, and then during that time we started that startup. So I've built as a CTO the e-commerce platform, where we have more than 40 shops running the dashboards, exchanging goods and doing the service.
It's cool. So not your first entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah, so it was a great venture, and then I was more more involved more heavily in technologies. I sort of just grew out of that role, and then we moved. We successfully launched that company and had people maintain the technology and run the service. Whereas I moved to more, deep tech space, which is, the internet and the routing technologies, and been doing that ever since.
So what should people be looking for from NOIA in the coming 6 months, year? How can people get involved if they become passionate about the project, run a node, become an investor, buy the coin, any of those things?
Yeah. So what they can expect from us is progress. For sure. And so, if being more specific, we definitely are launching the platform, the product as a self-service platform for every developer, DevOps, or tech guy to use and start creating networks. We're definitely launching the network. The thousands of nodes relaying the traffic. We'll see the thousands of optimization opportunities available on this new layer of internet. So there's exciting stuff to come, definitely, because we spend so much time building the technology and doing the homework. On the token side, we're working heavily on the new tokenomics model, and we're taking time with that because the numbers need to make sense in real business world, because what we do is related to real servers, real data being sent through. So we need some answers from the industry and the network before we can get some answers, and that's why we're taking time to make to get those answers and push out the new model system for our token, which will be an incentive-based system to grow the network and make it self-sustainable at certain size of market capitalization and size of the network nodes, which needs to be there to enable this internet layer. So there's in the next half a year, there's for sure exciting news coming out. And then we expect to grow the company a lot, the team size. So we heavily hiring now into, the tech team, the product team to work on those streams. And we're publicly tradable on KuCoin and some decentralized exchanges, so there's definitely ways people can get involved and support us in the Telegram community channels. We have a ambassador program, which is, I believe, poised at the moment, but you can always reach out if you want to get involved at some point. We're always happy to learn feedback, get comments, discuss with us on Telegram. So there's many ways to get involved.
And where can people follow you personally after this?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter and on Telegram and our channels where you can ask questions. I try to find time and come and respond. It's always hard, but we do amazing AMAs. We definitely do enough AMAs where people can join the next AMA happening in either our own Telegram channels or some of the other influencer or Telegram group channels. We do Ask Me Anything sessions where you can ask questions and get more information about NOIA. Ask things personally. Ask me or Bill Norton, our co-founder. You can ask questions about DARP, our routing protocol. We sometimes get really technical if you're into that kind of stuff. So, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to share.
I wish I was more into the technical stuff. I just want faster internet that doesn't go down. So if you can do that for me, I'm going to be really happy. I'll always be a fan. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you being here. It's exciting to hear about what your guys are doing. And like I said, since you say you're at this inflection point, it's kind of exciting because I know in 6 months, this would be a very, very different conversation. So I look forward to seeing.
I believe so. I believe so and I hope so.
I look forward to seeing the product. Well, thank you again so much.
Sure. No problem. Thanks.